What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for this very, very short video that I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about the engineered global catastrophes that are on the rise and what is the real reason why we're seeing this uptick of engineered manufactured crises. Now, to give context, this is spiritual warfare. They're manipulating weather. We know about HARP, DARPA programs, weather modification, geoengineering. There's a host of things that are impacting what we perceive as weather. Now, they see these crises as an opportunity to introduce things that during normal circumstances wouldn't even be introduced. Like in the last 3 years during the pandemic, what do we see? We saw a lockdown. And during that lockdown, they restructured the whole economy, the workforce, supply chains, how we feed ourselves, how we house ourselves. Um, they introduced digitization, biometrics. In many countries around the world, they had passports and global digital biometric IDs. And this new radical technology became normalized through crises. So let's get to it. Please like, share, and subscribe um, if you enjoy what you see and support this kind of content. Let's go. All right. Let me share my screen here. Let's get these articles on the screen so we can get down to it. All right. So, first thing we have on the screen is Mr. Schwab's daughter says that the pandemic was a precursor to coming climate lockdowns. Now, this is a very controversial topic that many people are bringing up, but we understand that the public health narrative and the climate narrative are going to be the main two topics to weaponize against removing personal sovereignties, creating legislation that restructures our whole way of life. The public health narrative was to gain access to the human body, to criminalize your everyday life as a threat to somebody else through germ theory narratives and big pharma agendas, where they can, to those who are indoctrinated and conditioned, put something in your body that will help to further their agenda. And the climate initiative is to control our environment, control business, to use and exploit corporations that are already under government control to perform to government self-interest. So what she's basically saying here is that all of these crises, we had the wildfires, the heat waves, and we understand that they're very suspect things that are happening. We understand that these fires are being set and manufactured around the world, burning down a lot of forests where people would live and grow food. And we understand about the chemical factory explosions, food processing plants. Not that we should be eating processed foods anyway, but they're sabotaging each facet of our economy, of our way of life, self-sustainability, because the United Nations has a global self-sustainability where it's all about a centralized world government controlling every aspect of your life. And they have this planned a long time ago. So let's get to it. Now, I'm not going to play the video where she says this, but I'm just going to read. It says the WEF's promotion of the climate crisis narrative seeks to create a change that is not incremental, to position nature at the core of the economy. Now, what did they say? It said, according to Nicole Schwab, the pandemic was a tremendous opportunity to test how the public will comply with authoritarian measures that could be used to usher in the Great Reset. And we understand about this. We've heard about this agenda. Look it up yourself. I'm not going to go into it. I'm just, using informational and educational purposes only. This is fair use information. But I want to break it down so that you can critically think and see clearly what's happening. Let's continue. Now, ironically, look at this. This is the Washington Examiner. It says California wants nation to start pondering climate lockdowns. And this is of July 21st, 2023. This is very new. And see, we knew this was going to happen. The last 3 years, that whole false narrative, look what it accomplished. It accomplished their goals. It introduced machine learning technology, quote unquote AI, automation, replacing human interaction with systems that could be further controlled by the government, criminalizing incandescent light bulbs, gas stoves, anything that is not connected to the electrical grid, because they want to have access to restrict services and resources for those who are in non-compliance. So it says you may correctly see that California's regular blackouts as a failure of environmental energy policy. Let me tell you why these heat waves are manufactured, because the heat waves are straining the energy grid, right? And they want to show you, using something that they manufactured through weather modification, that they can see that the grid is in danger through their narrative, and they need to lock down things. They need to shut things off. They need to put you back indoors. They need to restrict how you farm, how you eat, how you walk, how you move, under this whole guise of climate narrative. See, they want to claim you're burning too much energy. Even to raise cattle, you're causing climate issues. And what is your climate footprint? Everything that's going to be used for a system of social credit, where they track and trace and have you under panoptic surveillance throughout your entire life. From the moment you get up to the moment you go back to sleep, they want to track. They have technology that they want to put on, around, and in you to monitor everything you're doing. And they're going to do it under this guise of peace and safety. And we know the Bible says when they say peace and safety, then comes sudden destruction. But I just thought it was very interesting that recently they're pondering this. And we know it's more than pondering. Let's go to Forbes magazine 2 years ago, right? This is 2021. It says, report world needs equivalent of the pandemic lockdown every 2 years to meet Paris carbon emission goals. And we know they had the Davos, the World Government Summits, G7 or whatever has been happening a lot lately, where the UN, the WEF, the WHO, all these global organizations are uniting world leaders to all collude in this common agenda to meet the 2030 agenda goals, which is very nefarious. I suggest that you read and research this for yourself so you can understand this is spiritual warfare to remove you outside of living within God's design and allowing indoctrinated, sin-loving people to conform to the world because they want to maintain their pride of life, their status, their privileges, their jobs. They're holding you hostage so that those who are weak in faith and have no alternative means to resist and find other ways to survive will just succumb and comply. We've seen this during the whole injection narrative and how all they did was put a threat to your job, and many people didn't care if they knew what it was or understood or trusted or anything. They just did it because of the love of money. So let's continue. We have an executive order, and there's several executive orders that have been placed in the last 3 years. This was in 2021, executive order on tackling the climate crisis at home and abroad. And let me tell you, it's a lot of information in here that basically during a national emergency, just like we did during the other crisis, quote unquote, they can strip your civil rights, take away your human rights, your constitutional rights, whatever. They can do it under the guise that, we have to do this. They can enact the Stafford Act, which is, we were under medical martial law, but they can do military martial law, which means checkpoints, which means a gun in your face, which means that they don't care how you feel. they're just doing this as a threat to national security. And you don't want this to happen, but they need people to trust in these systems, this left-right paradigm. They're politicizing everything to make you have to choose a side that only offers a solution within their system. And if their system is corrupt, then all of their solutions, therefore, logically are corrupt. And that's the whole idea why they want you to think within their paradigm. So let's continue. We have forest fires growing in number and intensity around the world. Now, we all know about the energy weapons, and we know about the uh, how there's a myriad of ways that these fires can be set. And we know that you cannot trust the Operation Mockingbird corporate media complex. We know that that's a disinformation program to confuse you and mix lies with the truth and half truths and have you hooked to not thinking for yourselves, but allowing these people to distort and give you an epistemological fallacy about how we perceive information. They're redefining terms and words and how we observe reality through their lens so that we can wait for them to tell people what to do. And we have the United Nations here. This is a climate net zero, right? They're telling you that carbon is a threat to our way of life and how to reduce greenhouse gases to zero. And to do this, they need to get rid of a lot of meat that is pasture raised animals like cows and such. They're claiming that they're outputting methane, which is ridiculous. But this is what they're doing. They want to control. Meanwhile, the corporate government regulated factories are polluting our water supply and our air, but they don't care about that. They just care about you. This is all a power grab to remove personal sovereignty. Everything else is deflection. They're exploiting our environment to get to us. It's all about having access to your body to augment your body as a means of compliance. They want to turn our bodies and the compliance that our body has into a programmable currency. See, CBDC is just a step to make your actual physical body and how you comply in society a form of currency. And I'm gonna get to that in another video. But emissions fell during lockdown. This is the WEF. They're telling you that during the WEF, the emissions fell during their lockdown, and they want to replicate that. So let's keep it that way. They're telling you they need to do it again. And the 7 ways to track this is all agendas, Existential threats to humanity are soaring this year. This is 6 hours ago. And they're talking about all of the engineered disasters that are happening. You know, the wars and rumors of wars and heat waves and all their narratives that they're exaggerating to incite fear and irrational reactions to fear so that people who are spiritually dead will beg for a corrupt regime to offer a solution that restricts and removes personal sovereignty, freedom, and bodily autonomy. This is why you don't trust corrupt systems and you have to work outside the system. And this is why I promote the biblical worldview, which is the only worldview that exposes sin and the world and finds us to walk by faith through the revelation of the word of God by the Spirit, to not conform to the world, to not yield ourselves to deception because we're led of our flesh. We're living in sin. So let's see. We reached a boiling sea part of the climate crisis. This is just going to keep happening. This is yesterday. And so they're going to keep these narratives up. This is why I just want to keep people apprised of what's going on. But I'm going to keep this nice and short and sweet. So thank you for joining. I'm going to do some short videos like this in the future about things that I see and that I want to talk about in a very objective means. All right, peace and blessings, and I'll catch you all in the next one.